All right, guys. So let's talk about Tua real quick because he had a pretty bad week 17. Is he still Miami's QB of the future, or is this it?
You go, Elias.
So, like, the whole reason they tanked last year was to tank for Tua,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they did win too many games to be in contention to get him. But thank God he got injured because he fell to him. So it's just like that might have been their guy, but like at the same time, why would you bench him multiple times when he was the starter for Ryan Fitzpatrick if you didn't believe in him? Like I understand like you had a chance at the playoffs and you need to like you wanted to get into the playoffs, but like you going into the season, there's no way you thought you were getting into the playoffs or like you had a shot at the playoffs. So like let him develop and give him those reps, those valuable reps. Like they took him out when like they needed to come back. So it's just like why wouldn't you want to give your young quarterback those opportunities? So like to take him out and then throw in Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's kind of like it's sus because it's just like who like I just don't understand what the logic is, you know. Like I understand you want to win games, but like at what cost, you know?
So, as like Elias, you called me out for being pretty critical of him before, like weeks ago, just because he's so young. He needs to develop, obviously, and it's really hard to judge him based on this small sample size. But the more I watch him, the more I see Tyrod Taylor. I just feel like he's a game manager. You know, like I will say that Tyrod is definitely like he's a guy that he's obviously developed. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. But I see Tua, and I don't see a great arm. I see really bad footwork. He needs to fix that. And then I look at what the Miami Dolphins have been doing, and they're kind of treating him like every single team that Tyrod has ever had has treated him. It's like they never really give him a fair chance. And what I'm kind of worried about is like, what if the Dolphins forced him to play before he was ready because they weren't convinced if he was the guy. And then maybe like the 8 games that he played or whatever, maybe that was his trial, which I think he obviously failed. And then that makes me wonder, or that makes me even question if they're going to even keep him on the roster. And I look at these 3 guys that are playing really well, and it's like, oh wait, the Cardinals did it with fucking Josh Rosen. We see it more often nowadays. You know, this was kind of unheard of before, where teams will be like, okay, this isn't our guy. We like this guy. Let's get rid of him while he has some value. I pray that they don't do that, because I do think in the future, I do think Tua could be a really good fit for this team, a really good defense, and then a quarterback that doesn't really make too many mistakes and just game manages. I think he could be an elite game manager. As of right now, I don't see anything more than that. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I mean, I view Tom Brady as a game manager. You know, the more I look at it, it really depends on what Miami Dolphins believe their future at the QB position is going to look like. It's like, what do they actually want from a quarterback?
So let me ask you this. Is there a guy in the draft, if you're Miami, is there a quarterback in the draft you like more than Tua?
Well, I think like it depends because like you have to sit there at 3, right? Like I don't think they're jumping the Jets, and I don't think they're gonna. They would have to give up way too many picks to get Trevor Lawrence. So at that point, you're getting the 3rd best quarterback. So it's like either going to be, it's going to be Justin Fields or Trey Lance. Like it's going to be your players that you can pick. Because I
Unless
think
the Jets keep Darnold and
That's true,
run it back.
but I don't think they're gonna. Well, I don't know because it depends on who they get at their coach. But like, you're most likely getting the third quarterback. So it's like, do you think the third quarterback in this draft is like way better than Tua that you're just gonna waste a first round pick because you're not gonna get a first round pick back for him, you know? Like at best you might get a second round pick for him.
Yeah, I think he could get a second rounder.
But I think like you have to stick with him another year.
Yeah,
but I think
have to.
But if somebody falls to you and like you're in love with that guy and you're like that guy's going to change our franchise, I think you have to do it.
But that's what you said about Tua last year.
Yeah, that's the issue. It's like the things that we're saying about all these new quarterbacks, that's what we've been saying about Tua. So it gets to a point, it's like, is he your guy or is he not your guy? Have you liked what you've seen? Do you think he has the intangibles to grow into the quarterback that you need? And they have to make that decision. And I think there is a good chance that they pass on from him.
But if you do, you admit that entire season where you tanked for him,
Yep.
You just wasted. Like, that's just such a hard thing to swallow.
It happens.
And man, it hurts. It hurts when it does.
See, I think personally, when he went to Miami and they had Ryan Fitzpatrick, I was like, okay, like he's going to sit for a year. Like I literally thought he wasn't going to play a game this year, but then they must have saw something in him in practice where they're like, we should probably play him because Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing relatively well and he had that team winning games. So just like they must have thought like he was the guy. And then in those 8 games that he played, did they say like, okay, this isn't our guy? You know, because I mean, like, I think if Ryan Fitzpatrick could have played last week, I think he might have started. Because you don't just pull him like that's like the second time they pulled Tua for him, maybe even like the third time, and it's just like, why aren't you letting him finish these games? If these games are so important for you, why didn't Ryan? If you think Ryan Fitzpatrick gives you the best chance to win, why wasn't he starting the whole year?
Because I don't think they were trying. I thought it was I thought that they were like, okay, like we're not ready to be a contender, so they wanted to have a bridge quarterback like Fitzpatrick. They wanted him to lead the show, and they started winning way too much. And I'm not sure if they were completely sold on Tua yet. I don't think they were like, oh, like Tua's definitely ready to be out there. Because, I mean, we saw it. Like, he had a lot of growing pains. Maybe they saw some crazy shit in practice. I don't know. I thought it looked more like a trial to me.
I think you give like a second round pick a trial. I don't think you give up like a first round pick. I don't think you give him a trial. Like that's just my thing. I think if you took him, like unless their GM is horrible and he just doesn't know how to evaluate quarterbacks, then like I don't know why you would pick him at whatever. I think it was 6th,
5th or 6th.
Just like it's just like you don't waste that high of a draft pick, especially with the players that were on the board, because they could have gotten like a left tackle, like. And that they could have been set on their offensive line when they traded away their franchise left tackle. But
that's what happened to that third pick.
See, the problem though is like he would have been the number 1 overall pick if he didn't get injured.
I don't know. I think
1 or 2, man. Like it was between him and Joe Burrow, and then he got injured, so it was obviously Burrow.
So how many top 2 picks are gonna wait? How many top 2 picks are gonna sit a year? It just reminds me of Trubisky. It reminds me of that 1 year. It's like they weren't convinced that he was ready to go out, but then they started playing him, and they're like, okay, like let's see if this guy really is our guy.
But they traded up for him. He was their guy.
And I think they felt that they needed to see what he was early on.
I think if you trade up for your guy like that, then yeah, you got to see what he does.
Yeah. I just feel like the expectations for Tua were so unbelievably high, probably not his fault, that it almost made them made them want to see what was going on. Because if he's not your guy, you're going to waste another 3 years. So they have to make small sample size. It's like, is this the guy that's going to lead your team? He obviously can be a pretty good game manager at the very least. Very good anticipation, but once he gets to the intermediate to deep throws, he's not your guy.
Personally, what I think they should do with the third pick is they either trade back and they trade to the Bengals so they can get that left tackle out of Oregon, or they pick that guy from Oregon and then pick a receiver that falls to them with their original pick. But that's just me. I think
that Oregon pick or that Oregon left tackle, great number 3.
Yeah. I mean, if you think, because you can finesse the Bengals, because the Bengals, they'll trade quite a bit of picks to get that guy because they need to protect Joe Burrow. But like, do you get that left tackle, or I could also see them going with a receiver too, like whoever they think is the best receiver.
If they get Smith or Chase, that's scary.
I don't know if the receiver is the way to go at this point.
I think if you want to make life easier for him, you should get that receiver.
I still feel like offensive line is the most important thing.
No, I understand that, but if you're like, I don't know, you can get. There's not a lot of like tackles in this year's draft.
No, it's really the kid from Oregon.
Yeah,
because he's like.
Last year they had 5.
Wait, where are the Patriots picking?
They're picking at like probably somewhere like 15 to 18, maybe.
Do you think he could last to number 6?
No, that tackle. No, he won't fall past 5.
I was going to say, yeah, Patriots are picking 15th. Right now, according to most mock drafts,
he won't fall past the Bengals. That's a fact. Bengals have the 5th pick.
This is a really intriguing situation.
It is, because there's so many ways they could go, man.
Because, like, when you think of being a GM, it's like you wasted a year. You're kind of stuck in a position where you have to ride it out. But we have seen enough to maybe shift that perspective.
I mean, I think you saw it one time happen. Where you let your first round quarterback go. And he wasn't that high of a pick. He was a top 10 pick, but he wasn't the 6th overall pick.
Yeah.
And they don't have the first overall pick. Like,
but then you look at then you look at the other teams that didn't do it, and it's like, okay, like Jamarcus Russell, they could have probably shipped him out when he had some value and got someone else instead of riding it out.
Yeah, but it's different now because like he had the highest pay, he had the highest rookie contract in the league. So it's just like people saw how bad he was, and it's just like, would people actually trade for that contract? Like now people will trade. It's like $1 million. It's like $1 million cap hit. So people are more willing to take on that cap hit than whatever it was when Jamarcus Russell had his contract.
It's just crazy. It's like a quarterback, if you don't have the right one, that could set you back years.
Oh yeah.
But like if you think that your GM didn't pick the right guy now, what makes you think he's going to pick what's left out of the quarterbacks that fell to you?
That's a valid point.